This is a 4,000-acre nursery, a nursery for some of the most expensive babies in the world, standardbred horses. A standardbred horse is bred specifically to trot or to pace, and the Hanover Shoe Farm, just 2 hours from Philadelphia, is the largest such farm in the world. 1,500 horses roam its pastures. Most of them will grow up to be numbers on a tote board, and millions will come to racetracks to place a $2 bet on what they'll see only as a mane, a tail, and a track record. But a great deal more goes into it than that. Trotting and pacing all began on the country roads in America's horse and buggy days. Then to the fairgrounds in the days when standardbreds like Dan Patch and Greyhound were national heroes. Today, it's a $2 billion business. 25 million fans come to America's harness tracks every year. It's a worldwide industry, and this enormous farm is its largest supplier. But the real story is a lot more personal, a lot more involved. It has to do with care and patience and the human love of an animal. That's the story we're interested in tonight. The birth, growth, and human care for just one of the 1,500 horses here. A future champion, a $1 million baby. This is really a complex operation. And there are many, many facets to the farm, but I would guess when you come right down to it, there isn't anything more important than right here. This is where it all begins. This is the maternity ward here at the Hanover Shoe Farm, the foaling barn. Approximately 2 weeks before a mare is due to foal, she's brought here, and when she leaves, perhaps she leaves with another champion. Right here in these stalls, in this very barn, some of the great horses, some of the great world champions in the sport's history were born. Bret Hanover, Lindy's Pride, Laverne Hanover, Ayers. Oh, you can go on and on. As a matter of fact, right here, the great Neville Pride was born, the world champion and a horse who set so many records that perhaps they'll never be broken. As a matter of fact, momentarily, we are expecting the birth of another foal, and this one may leave here as the colt or filly champion. This is a very special night for a mare named Romola Hanover. Her offspring have won more purse money than any brood mare who ever lived, and Romola is due to foal. Romola Hanover is the mother of the great world champions Romeo Hanover and Romulus Hanover. The sire, that's the father, of both Romeo and Romulus, is Dancer Hanover. So the colt or filly we are expecting at this moment will be special because of the performance of his or her brothers. Dr. G.R. Greenhoff is on hand to lend any assistance that may be required. He talked about the pain she may be experiencing.
One would think that they have pain. However, nature sort of provides that they take care of these things, and I think that their expression or their reactions indicate they have pain. However, that's a normal thing. We know that they do go through quite a few changes, and pain is part of the delivery procedure. It is quite necessary we have not assistance but observation and someone who is acquainted with this type of procedure to detect anything that might appear to be abnormal so that we can aid the animal before she gets into too much trouble. And the idea is to save mother and foal. This little fella here, I think, has stood up to expectations. Each year, I say that the foal that this mare has had looks like it's nicer than the 1 year before, and I think this is no exception.
The average foal immediately here at birth, what would she weigh?
Oh, I would say an average foal around 70, 80 pounds in that vicinity.
How fast is their growth? A month or two from now, what will this foal go?
I would say at about, maybe 8 weeks, you may have one that will weigh around 250, 300 pounds.
How long after birth do they attempt to stand and actually stand?
I'd say around 30 minutes would be a good average time, everything being normal.
The mare, will she allow you to work on her baby here?
Majority of them are very congenial. Occasionally you run into a mare that is very protective, However, the majority of them are congenial, and well, I don't know whether they realize it, but they seem to act as if they know that you're trying to be of some help to them.
This is Dancer Hanover, the proud father of Romola's new filly. The filly's name will be Romaine Hanover. Dancer was an outstanding pacer in his racing career and is proving to be a top sire. Dancer's being exercised by a veteran of some 30 years at the Hanover Shoe Farm, stallioneer Kenny Ham. Over the years, Ken Ham has cared for many of the great stallions in harness racing history. Today, there are 12 standing at the farm, including 2 that are bound to leave a mark almost impossible to surpass. Star's Pride, the father of 7 Hamiltonian winners, the Kentucky Derby of harness racing, the other being Tar Heel, who is the first sire ever to have one crop of his yearling sell for over $1 million. Ken Ham admits to having a very busy and a very full day.
I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and try to keep them on a routine every day. Get up at 4, feed them. When they're finished eating, I turn them out according to the weather. Then I get them in and
Which means that you would turn them out
in a paddock.
in a field here,
yes.
How about of the current crop? Do you have a favorite or 2 in them?
Yeah, I sure do. Old Tar Heel.
Even all those bites he's tried to take out of you?
He's a great old horse. He gave me many a nice ride when he's back till he got a little tough about riding him. I guess he got tired of it.
How old is he?
He's 22 years old, approximately to 90 years old of a man. I used to ride him, but he got too tough for me to ride. He'd try to run off with me, and then he'd try to reach around and grab me. Gets angry. You've got to keep your eye on them at all times. They're just like a bull, but you don't want to take no chances. But so far, they've never done anything to me in all the years I've been here.
Does a horse get to know you if you're around him enough?
Yes, sir. As soon as I start out the front door, they start nicking. They want their breakfast. And it's dark, you know, at 4 o'clock. A horse is a creature of habit. And you don't even have to turn a feed tub. They'll start howling. They want it.
On the second Thursday of each month, Dr. Charles W. Raker, professor of surgery, University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine, travels to Hanover to rebuild 23-year-old Star's Pride's hoofs. Dr. Raker is credited with keeping this great stallion alive the past 5 years.
The Star's Pride has been unfortunate enough to have suffered from disease commonly known as founder, disease of the foot, in which you get a separation of the normal attachments of the bone, the so-called coffin bone. And this puts pressure on the sole, makes him very lame. Usually every 4 weeks I come up here and we trim this horse's feet and shoe him in a special manner that gives him some relief. So the basic principle here is to lower the heel as much as we can, and at the same time to shorten the toe, to bring it back to as normal a position as is feasible at the time. And this, of course, then would tend to bring weight bearing back more on the flat of the bone rather than on the front or the toe portion of the bone.
When the shoe is on, I know you put a plate on there. What is that for?
We feel that he needs some protection for the sole of the foot. In other words, we don't want it when he's out in pasture or walking to have stones and so on coming up and bruising this area, which is very sensitive.
Now, on this final step, this mixture you're putting together, what is this?
Well, this is actually dental acrylics used by dentists in making impressions for dentures. It's quite adherent, and so any defects that we have, we can repair or patch with the acrylic. And in a sense, you can build most any type of a hoof you would want to build with this material.
Now, if this care wasn't administered to Star's Pride each month, would the foot disintegrate?
Well, in a relatively short period of time, with that bone in the hoof rotated, pushing on the sole, it isn't long before it comes through the sole, and when this happens, it usually necessitates that they be destroyed because they're in so much pain, there's nothing can be done for them.
The farm was founded in 1926 by the late Lawrence B. Shepard. Mrs. Shepard lives in this charming home on the farm. Mrs. Shepard, a delightful lady whose life revolved around her husband, her children, and her farm, And of the many great horses Mrs. Shepard owned over the years, she does have a favorite.
Well, of course, Ayers I'm very proud of because I was the first woman to raise a Triple Crown winner in the harness business. And Ayers was the one who did it.
Miss Shepard, did you like horses right from the very beginning?
Well, of course, I've always loved him, and I always went to the races with him when I could. But my business was at home with the children and for Dad.
But you did like the horses, though, didn't you?
Oh, I've always loved them and always had horses in Texas. Of course, I had to get Texas in. I was afraid you'd say something about California.
This farm, of course, is just magnificent. 4,000 or better acres. Is there any place on this farm that is of particular interest to you?
They always wanted us to build a big old house, and I wouldn't do it. And my son didn't want to do anything about the old part of the house. So he said, Mom, you just add to that. You just hook on and just go on out with it. But Shep never came in until we moved. He never looked at what I was building or anything else. But I will say that I got a swimming pool that's out of this world because he needed ground for around the barns for the horses.
Approximately 9 days after giving birth, the mare is bred again. And after that begins the most pleasant phase of life for mother and baby. They're turned out in a pasture to live as close to nature as possible. For Romola and her little girl, Romaine, life is perfect. From a casual observation, the mares show little concern for their offspring. At first, the young ones seldom leave their mother's side. But as they grow, they make friends with others in the field, and like children, they romp and play. Even at this age, the trained eye can spot the possibility of a future champion in many of the foals. Romaine even now has caught the eye of the farm veterans. And Mom seems to sense that her little girl has all the qualities to grow to be something special. At from 5 to 6 months of age, mother and baby are brought in from the fields to be separated, weaned. The first thing done is the branding. The number on the mare's hoof is branded onto the foal's hoof for future identification. Although it may appear to be painful, it is not in any way. This, too, is the first time the young ones have ever been handled by a human being. The actual separation is accomplished by tricking the mare. She's led onto the truck and the foal follows her. The mare is then turned around and led off, and the baby is trapped in the truck. And it's not until she's back in the stall that Mom finally realizes her baby is gone. This is the saddest day in the life of a horse. Don Millar, the farm manager, tells us about it.
We start here weaning in early September, and we do it by the fields until we've completed about mid of October. We go, of course, by age, weaning the ones that were pulled earlier, and then moving on to the others until we've completed the job.
Romaine Hanover's on her own now, a bit confused but free. John Simpson, the president of the Hanover Shoe Farm, has high hopes for this filly.
She has the characteristics of her good brothers and her one sister. This filly is a full sister to 3 champions, so she has a great future ahead of her.
After being weaned and turned loose, Romaine spent a great deal of time just running and looking for her mother. This will last just a few days. When she calms down and joins other fillies in the field, she'll enjoy her life of freedom. She'll be checked periodically until next year when she'll be brought in and prepared for the sale. The yearlings are separated by sex, the males, the colts, in one group of fields, and the fillies, the girls, in another. The management of the Hanover Shoe Farm believes very strongly the yearlings should be allowed to grow as close to a natural environment as possible. With that in mind, they never isolate the ones who will potentially bring high prices at the sale because of their royal breeding. This, of course, is a risk since there's always the danger of injury. The yearlings are checked constantly, and any injury or sickness is quickly discovered by the farm's expert staff.
Which one is it, Daddy?
freedom ends in the midsummer when the yearlings are brought in from the fields to be broken. For the first time in their lives, a human being is going to handle them.
After about a week or 10 days, you've got them where you can handle them pretty good.
What are you looking to do? I know it is in speed. You're looking for manners and a gait, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I think your trotters, I think it's more or less gait. I think most of these trainers like to see a colt led. And I think a colt's gait is probably the most important thing. Just let her go on. Just keep her going. Think that pony can make it with the rest of them? Huh? Ooh.
Have you had any, over the years, and you've had many years' experience in this, that you found impossible to break and they just wouldn't perform?
You'll get 2 or 3 probably that just won't show. They just won't lead. And it doesn't seem to, the more you drill them, it doesn't seem to help them. They've got to have that ability or they don't. Of course, there's been a lot of those kind of colts that went on and made, you know, good racehorses, too.
This is not a family picnic, although it has much the same atmosphere. Mom, Dad, and the kids have gathered at the fairgrounds in Hanover. They have come from every section of the country, and they're here to see the Hanover yearlings parade, to appraise them and pick the one they think might make a potential harness champion. For 6 weeks prior to the Harrisburg sale, the yearlings are shown daily to these prospective buyers. The colts and fillies are judged on their gait, their manners, their conformation. The sales catalog details the breeding and performance of their brothers and sisters. Like any buyer, the horseman is hoping to find that bargain. Like a filly who sold at the sale for $900 a few years ago, and today is approaching $1 million in earnings. For the world champion driver, Hervé Filion, this is a moment of decision, when he attempts to pick the ones he'll bid on at the sale. And for trainer-driver Stanley Dancer, it's anything but a hit-or-miss decision.
I'm a great believer that if the breeding doesn't suit me, I'm really not interested in that particular colt or filly. So I go from breeding, and then after that I go to the individual's conformation and soundness. A great bred colt certainly is going to be one that's going to cost more money than maybe one that's greatly bred, and you have to take him with a few faults. In other words, you buy a high-priced car, you get what you paid for it, but harness racing or any other racing certainly goes the other way. As you know, Neville Pride was a $20,000 colt and turned into a $3 million sale, and also won $800-some-thousand. This gives all the young and smaller buyers a lot of incentive to go out and really try to get one.
Well, the first thing I do, Jim, when I approach a horse, it's nearly like looking at a person or meeting a person. The first thing you do when you see a person, you say hello to them or anything, you look at their head. You look up at their face. So
the most respected man in harness racing, the owner of Meadowlands Farm and a great trainer-driver, Del Miller, explains how he picks a yearling.
An individual. Then I go on back over his body. I look at his height. I can judge pretty much how tall he is. And then I really pinpoint him from there on. First thing, if a horse would happen to be a little parrot mouth, I'd just look in there to see that both of the teeth, they protrude to the same point there, because if a parrot mouth horse has his lower jaw protruding back too far, they don't eat good when they're turned out in the pasture field. So that's a little something. Then I always like to see a little room in here to see that they're breathing, because sometimes a horse takes a halt and he goes back there too far, he shut off his wind. So I like to see a little room in there. I like a real good ear and a good eye, a good individual. I look at his right in here, see how much muscle he has. I look at these muscles. Then I start right down to this is I think the greatest part of a horse. I mean, the greatest place is right there. If I could just look in there and tell you how much heart that horse had, I might not have to worry about legs and things like that. But this is a very important part of the horse, the anatomy from there to there, right to the bottom. Now that horse, this colt here, has a real good ankle, a good bone. He's not meaty. He's got a good sesamoid. He don't have any splints. He's got a real tight tendon. And here's a very important thing, I think. The old saying is no foot, no horse. Well, I pick up a horse, but I can tell right away whether it's contracted or not, see? If that foot was real narrow and contracted, I'd just put the foot down and walk away and not even bother about the horse, because if they don't have a good, solid foot, you just don't have a good horse. Now, he's got a good foot. It's wide. It's solid. He's got a good heel. Now, I do like a horse that's got a little width between here and here, especially a trotter. Now, this is a pacer, so it don't matter as much, but if a horse is too short couple, they can get into their shins easily. That, by saying their shins, I mean a horse will hit his hind shins with his front feet. If they're too short couple, they'll naturally hit a little more than they would otherwise. Now I walk around, and I always like to look at a colt from behind. I imagine I'm sitting in the cart or sulky. I just want to see what he looks like to me from the back. When looking over a colt like this from behind, you can see if he's got good hips. You know, a colt can have his hip knocked down, a cap of his hip knocked down, and you want to be sure that both of them are in real good shape. Another thing, when you walk around a colt like this, I like a good tight stifle. Now, this colt has a good, tight stifle, but I can tell pretty much by just moving them back and forth. See that joint, whether it's tight or loose. I wouldn't want to see one that bulged out too much in here. So I think that covers it pretty much.
If there was one yearling who commanded the most attention, it was this one, Romilly Hanover, a handsome bay filly, born last year the same mare and sire as the new filly we saw born earlier. Romilly is the first female offspring born to Romola and Dancer Hanover, and that's certain to make her a prize buy at this year's sale.
Hip number 640 is Romilly Hanover. Here's the Dancer Hanover filly out of Romola Hanover by Tar Heel. A full sister to the world champions, Romeo Hanover. Earnings over $658,000. Romulus Hanover over $483,000. A sister to the winners of over $1,450,000. Enough said.
Well, I'm going to say one thing about her. It's the only one in the world like her.
Well, John, just what does the Hanover Shoe Farm do as far as this sale's concerned?
Well, Jim, we raise the yearlings. We breed them and raise them at the farm. We bring them over here like today and sell them. We're selling 161 that we raise.
Now, actually, when you bring them here, the buyers then are obligated to train them and try to develop champions out of them, right?
Oh, yes. They're sold at auction today, and the new buyers will turn them over to trainers to be taken to the training tracks and trained and raced, and they'll own them.
There she is. Anybody give 20,000? Anybody give 20? Now 30. I mean 20.
The bids are made by a simple nod of the head or raise of the eyebrow. So if you're just a spectator, it'd be wise to make no false move, or you might accidentally own a $50,000 yearling. Auctioneer George Swinburne and his assistants never miss a trick.
Be anything in the world, and probably will be, if she's the only one. At 75, 76, you want her. I mean, 75, I mean, $75,000 and 6 one time. I mean, 75.
It's obvious that Romilly is going to break the record $95,000 paid for a filly at the sale in Kentucky earlier this fall. If in fact she does, the credit must go to the men at the farm, whose efforts the past 2 years in raising her, caring for her, and preparing her for this moment are now rewarded. Now back to the bidding. It's past the record. We pick it up at $96,000.
All right. Now the time has come. The time has come. $100,000 for the filly. I got $100,000 right here. While all you guys were messing around. How about that? How about that, boys? Well, wait a minute. I'm sold a damn filly. What are you all kidding?
I got 101.
I know it. What are y'all crabbing about? Why, hell, 100,000 ain't nothing. I got 101. Yeah, 102. I'm at 101, now I'm going to go 2. I'm at 101, now I'm going to go 2 to 1 to 2. I'm at okay. Are you through, Little Red? at 101,000 and sold it right over here at 101. Now you can give him a hand.
In the first week of November next year, Romaine Hanover will be led into the same sales ring, and she could top the record set by her sister, for they were both born to pace.
What's your pleasure? Who gives 50,000 to start? Animal get 50. Animal get 50. 50. 60. 50,000 animal 60. 50,000 animal 60. What do you do it? 50,000 animal 60. Animal get 60. What do you do it? 50,000, 60,000, 50 animal 60. What do you say? 50,000 animal 60. 50 animal 60. Animal 60. Look sharp, Charlie. 60,000 Paul. 50, 60. 50 animal 60. Animal 60. Animal 60. Animal 60 would have been back there. 55. 50,000, 55. Burning, watching. 50,000 animal 55. 5, 60,000. 55 animal 60. Now 60. Do you say J? 55, 60,000. 55 animal 60. Animal 60. Animal 60. What do you do? 55 animal 60,000. 55, 60. 5 animal 60. Animal 60. Animal 60. Animal 60. What do you do? 55 animal 60,000. 55, 60,000. 5 animal 60. Animal 60.